how was it though for you? I mean, being with such an influential person, girl, woman, goddess. How like how was that? Was it easy for you to get along with that part of her, or did you
Mm,
also had moments where you felt uncomfortable?
not just moments, not just moments. I mean, it's my ex for a reason. um, it's really really beautiful because I was so excited about consciousness and expanding and learning and going deeper and deeper and deeper, but there was a level of unsafety in it sometimes that just I didn't feel always safe enough, and it was always about processing something next and next and next and next. And that's something that I've really learned, like the change doesn't all have to happen right now. And with this constantly challenging the ego, there's also a little bit of a fight against the ego. And that, of course, is a judgment of the ego.
Hmm.
And that's something that I really tried to, after the relationship, tried to change again. That I'm like, I love my ego because it serves certain functions. And
Yeah.
I'm also just on my path. And it doesn't all have to happen tomorrow or today. I can get the time. I can give myself the time to develop here.
So you
And
felt like you didn't get the time from her in that way, or
yeah, it was just sometimes, like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Like we had so many things that would just come at like 12 at night just before sleeping. There would be a process that started, and then it was 6 or 7 a.m. before we finished it. And then it was
oh,
like a lack of sleep, and then you had to go into the next day and do the things you have to do in that day. And it's like, yeah, there was just, I feel like there was just a finer balance to be found in just also sometimes surrendering, plus sometimes trying to figure out and solve a problem when you're so fully identified with that problem, meaning you're identified with that ego part of you, and therefore you're fighting against the one who's challenging it.
yeah.
Maybe sometimes it's good to not do it in that moment, and that's the balance I found with Leia, my girlfriend right now, that where we do something called in a German Zwiegespräch, which is something from a like a relationship course that she has followed.
How do you say
And
that?
it's
Sweden?
Schwie from Zwiebeln, and that's
Schwie Schwiebeln.
Zwiebeln is an onion in German. Yeah, so it's like peeling off the layers of the onion, basically. Peeling off the layers of the onion conversation.
So Schwiebeln sprechen.
Gespräch, like conversation.
Gespräch.
Ja.
Schwiebeln Gespräch.
Ja, ja. Und
Genau.
dann in short, Zwiegespräch.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like that.
Peeling of the onion.
Exactly. And sometimes we get a situation where we trigger each other, and then in that moment I do not want to talk, or she doesn't want to talk about the situation, because I feel like she's the enemy and she's the one that created it, whilst
Yeah.
I, of course, on a deeper layer know that everything that is triggering me is inside of me and I get to look at it. But I might not have the space for that in that moment. So what we do is we say, okay, let's talk about it in our next Zwiegespräch, in our next peeling of the onion conversation. And that means that we have usually weekly scheduled that. And sometimes we schedule more if we need it. And then we schedule a moment. And then we give ourselves a little bit of the space and time to actually process it within ourselves, so that the biggest emotion can come out of it. And we're not going to go into that conversation shouting at each other or telling each other why they were wrong for saying that. No, it's about owning things. It's about figuring out what in that conversation, what in that discussion or this fight or argument, what was it in that I can own? And what feelings did I have? What was coming up for me feeling wise? And there's the idea is that you don't go into judging, like, yeah, and then you said this, and you were so mean to me, and like, no, maybe they were not mean to me, maybe this is just how I interpreted it because it triggered me in some way. So I'm just gonna say, you said that, and that made me feel like this. So we're going already more into a space where we can observe our the situation that happened and not be as identified with the problem. And that allows us to much more solve it without needing to have such a clash. And that's what with my ex sometimes happened, where we had like I said, 12 to 6 a.m. It would be like the first 3 hours would be just like more of a fighting before we'd be able to actually dive into it and solve the issue. So I think that's sometimes a little bit more of a healthier way to do it, because became in a way that somehow I became, like I said, more like fighting with my ego, and therefore actually distrusting myself more. And yeah, it made it sometimes just so heavy, you know? As a kid, I was just able to play a lot, and now suddenly it was all about finding new layers of where I'm not authentic or something like that, and then needing to solve that right now because it's the fucking problem, and I need to, like, you know, you can also just be fucked up, and you can also just be inauthentic, and it's also okay. And give it the time that it needs. I mean, what I truly believe is that life is going to continue reflecting, in that sense that if we have a program or something of a trigger inside of us, life, the universe, give it a name, is going to be showing us that we have that inside of us, by giving us situations that trigger that again and again and again until we get the message.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you don't get it and you're like, okay, I just can't deal with it right now, then, also okay, because it's going to come up again. And then at one point you're like, okay, I really have to solve this right now. So I just became a little bit softer and more gentle with my ego, and not needing to always develop. I mean, even that created some kind of a spiritual ego where I was like, yeah, I'm this guy that always conscious, always able to develop, always able to find deeper layers inside myself and everything. Well, it was taking joy sometimes. It was just taking joy away sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can imagine. Because I mean, building up a spiritual ego is also some part of putting up face, right?
Yeah, that's another mask.
Yeah, exactly.
Another mask. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I feel like my relationship now is much more balanced in a sense that, we see our programs, but we love each other's programs as well. Because as soon as you're challenging someone's programs, there can also be like, it's not allowed to be there kind of feeling. And now it's much more of like, if I can be present, if I'm not too triggered with Leia, then I can just see her in all of her process, in all of her emotions and all of her triggers. Then like, was it somewhere this morning when like in the middle of the night, Noah woke up, and then I said something. I don't even remember what I said, but then she reacted with it with such a trigger. I was like, oh, huh? I fully didn't get it. But I also wasn't right away. I felt a little bit this, like, she was attacking me. But at the same time, I was curious enough to just kind of figure out why she just did that. Because what I said was not at all meant. Oh, yeah, it was regarding a pillow. Something super stupid. But, like, I was a pillow laying behind her. And I was like, do you need that pillow to be there? Or why didn't you put it away yet? And she interpreted that as, why didn't you put it away yet? But I was just honestly curious about the pillow and why it was laying there, because normally she doesn't like the pillow there. So she responded with this, like, yeah, I still had to breastfeed Noah, so I didn't have the time for that. And I'm like, huh? Wait. And I could have gone in then, like, why are you yelling at me like that? I could have fought her on that, right? Go in the same energy to fight that. But instead, I was enough conscious to then say, okay, wait, something happened here. And especially right now in a phase where we don't sleep as much, of course, triggers can come up sometimes more easily because you're more tired, right? And tiredness, that happens more often. So I'm like trying to always be curious in those kind of situations first. Of course, if something really triggers me, then I cannot. But I try to be curious first and to see, like, wait a second. Why did you get so triggered right now? Yeah, because you're like, oh, okay. Well, I actually really just wanted to know. I asked it from a place of curiosity and not as a judgment. So, yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. And it's like solved, right? Like, it's like, boop, gone.
That's beautiful.
That's, by the way, also where meditation really helps. I think that meditation, what it can do is it can help create more distance in an emotion entering your system and your reaction to that emotion. And in that space is consciousness, where you can choose, am I going to truly react like that? Or am I going to observe a little bit more the situation and understand a bit better and not just react on my first impulse that comes because of the trigger, but I'm going to check it out a little bit more. Maybe this is a better response, curiosity. That helps me a lot. That's why my meditation is also such an important tool for me to truly connect.